everyone! Happy Tuesday. It is the 30th of March 2021 and my name is Saija. I am coming to you live from the Red Deer Museum and Art Gallery with a really fun little Easter themed project that we're going to do today. We are making these watercolor Easter eggs and we'll be using a really fun technique called resist. And so what that's going to look like is using oil pastels to create the patterns on our paper before we add any of our watercolor paint. And because oil pastels are made of oil, they don't like water. They kind of push it away. So it's going to create a barrier that's going to let us get this really nice layering effect happening with our project. So let's hop to it. So as you saw on the screen, we had a supply list, but I'll quickly run through it just so you get a little refresher and have a moment. You're going to want to get yourself a watercolor paint palette, some nice oil pastels in light pastel colors. I chose 2 brushes. We want the nice soft nylon type brushes for watercolor. I've got a pencil and eraser that we'll only use briefly in this project, but it is really helpful to have them. And of course, a glass of water for you to paint with. So, step 1. What kind of shape are we looking at when we're thinking of an egg? It's kind of round. So we got this nice big round shape on the bottom. And of course, you know, you really want to draw super lightly. We don't want to have a whole bunch of really deep pencil lines carved into our paper. So use a pencil that is an HB or lighter. If you have an H pencil, that's even better because they have a nice hard lead that doesn't leave too much pigment on your paper. So I've got this kind of thinner point to the top of my egg, and I'm going to bring it back around to this kind of more round part. Ooh, that's not centered as much as I would like it, but that's okay because that's why we have our trusty erasers and it's why we're drawing nice and lightly. So I'm going to come back around and just add a little bit more size to my egg here. There we go. All right, so there's our egg shape, and I'm going to erase the lines that I don't want there. Just tidy up all those sketchy lines. Fill it out a little if you have any kind of weird shapes that you're not quite a fan of. I'm actually going to fix up this side a little bit because I want it to match a little more nicely. There we go. All right, so, oh, and I am so sorry. I did not realize that we had the video screen set up for our assistant participant, Mr. Gunner. You want to say hello?
Hi.
He is following along, and this little guy has been helping me with live streams before, so you might have seen him when we did our Holly Warburton oil pastel pieces.
Yep.
That was a really fun project, wasn't it?
Yep. My egg actually kind of looks like a potato.
You know, potatoes are just kind of like lumpy egg shapes. So,
yeah.
You know, pretty close. Pretty close.
Mine's almost an egg.
Almost an egg. I bet it looks fantastic. And you know what? Once we get our patterns on it, it'll definitely look like an egg.
Yay.
So you're on the right track. Okay, so the next step that we're going to move to is you can choose a color that you want to outline your egg with. So I'm going to go for this really nice light blue. And I'm just going to trace all the way around the line I made for my egg shape. Now, something I've noticed is that if you go fast, your oil pastel will sort of leave these little empty ridges. So you want to just make sure you get a solid line all the way around. Because this is, again, it's going to act like a little a little wall.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little protector.
A little protector.
From the bear. It's kind of like a little protector for the castle.
I was just thinking the same thing. It's like a moat.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Great minds think alike, right? So we're going around.
I hope my dad will get to see this video.
Oh, I'm sure he'll love your project, even if he doesn't get to see the video.
Yeah, he probably will.
And we, as usual, have our live videos, I believe, available on our blog and our Facebook after the fact. So, you know, worst case, you can always check it out later. All right, so I've got my outline. How's your outline looking, Gunnar?
Still halfway done it.
Still working on it? That's all good. And now I'm just going to describe the next step while you're working on what you're working on. So when you're adding your patterns to your egg, you have the option of drawing them in pencil first, or if you're feeling brave, you can just freehand them with oil pastel and see how that works for you. I kind of, feeling like taking some risks today, so I'm just going to freehand my patterns. And I do want to start my first couple ones with the same color I used to do the outline, because that's going to create some harmony and balance to see the same color used in this very large piece, used in smaller quantities. So I'm going to make, and also, because eggs are kind of a curved sort of object, when we're drawing our patterns, we're not going to go straight across, because that's not what they would look like in real life. So we're going to have kind of curved lines happening here. So I've got this one up top. Just a simple straight line. I'm going to do another one like that. And so there's the first band of my egg pattern. Sometimes you just gotta peel back some of that paper on that pastel, because we're gonna wear them down. I'm gonna lay that color on there. And let's see, I think I need a little more of my light blue. So I'm actually just gonna do like a nice big band right across the middle of my egg. Just going real nice and bold with this blue.
My egg's turning out good so far.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, you're just getting right into those patterns. Good stuff.
Yep.
I love working with oil pastels. They're so buttery and satisfying. I'm actually just going to give my page a little white, because we get these kind of like little gribbly bits of oil pastel that kind of like to migrate around the page, and they kind of like to get stuck onto our watercolor brushes when we do the later parts. So just, you can kind of brush off those little extra clingy bits there. And just to keep things nice and balanced, I'm going to throw a little bit more towards the bottom of the egg. And I think that is looking quite fine. And so now I'm going to go in with some white pastel, which you're not going to see until we do this magical reveal with our watercolor paint. Bring those lines up, make sure that they're nice and solid. And, ooh, let's do some up here too. Thicken them up a little bit.
I'm also doing white, so it'll be magical once we put the watercolors on.
Absolutely. It's so fun, honestly, doing that. It's almost like writing with secret ink, and then you reveal
Once
it.
you put water on it, it's just like it reveals.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost my pastel.
Uh-oh. Let's throw some pink in there. Just really going for those Eastery pastel colors.
I'm just doing all the colors of the rainbow.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic as well. It's your Easter egg, right? Whatever makes you
My
happy.
Easter egg, my rules.
Exactly. And I'm gonna do another stripe of white over top of this guy. And something to keep in mind is you want to repeat the same colors that you're using. You want to repeat them a few times throughout your egg, because again, that gives us this sort of sense of unity in the piece of art. When your eye can like move around and kind of see beats of the same color kind of evenly distributed throughout, that is one of the elements of art that we can take into consideration when we are creating. Now let's do some circles. I've been doing lots of lines, but let's break up our shapes a little with some different types of shapes.
I've been doing lots of different shapes in mine.
Oh, that's fantastic. What kind of
And I
shapes
found
you
a
got?
finished color in it.
Oh, wonderful. I need another couple of minutes here, but I'm going to try to catch up to
If
you.
you need any colors, you're welcome to borrow some of mine.
Oh, that is very kind of you. I already picked out all the colors I'd like, but sharing is caring, and that is you're demonstrating how to be a good friend and good artist colleague. So very cool of you, Gunnar.
You're welcome.
Sometimes we learn more than just art lessons. Sometimes we learn good human lessons on how to treat each other. So that is cool and good.
Yep.
Gonna do a band of pink over here. This is a really wonderful project too, because once you kind of hit your stride, it's very meditative. It's very nice to just kind of do projects that involve repeating patterns and shapes.
Yeah.
Very satisfying.
Yep.
All right, now I think I want to get some purple triangle zigzaggy things going.
So my paint is actually kind of mushy still. The last time it got used.
Yeah, that particular watercolor palette does seem to always have a little bit of mushiness to it.
I'm just squishing them right now to see what I can get. I squished too hard on my red and I got red paint on my face.
Oh no, you gotta be careful.
Just the one spot's really goopy.
Really gooey, hey?
Squish, 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 squish.
All right, gonna add some more purple up here. We are just about done.
Well, you're just about done.
I am just about done. Gunnar is more just about done than I am, and that's okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna go in with a little bit of dark blue here, just to kind of change things up a little. Do some straight lines, kind of all kinds of patterns that you can add into these projects. It's a lot of fun. Couple more shapes and we're just about done the oil pastel part of this. One more set of zigzags is what I think this egg needs. And a couple more circles. And then I think we'll be ready to move on to the paint phase of our project here. Okay, brilliant. So I'm happy with what my egg is looking like now. So the next thing that I want to do, sorry, just throwing a little more pastel on there. Sometimes the perfectionist in me just pops on out. Okay, so our next step is going to be to take our brush and our water. Now you want a clean brush and clean water. And before we add any paint to our brush, we're just gonna dip it in there. And we're using the wet on wet technique. So we're just gonna get a bunch of clean water all over our page. And we're just going to start with the background before we get into painting the egg. So getting that page nice and saturated.
Just dunk it in water.
Dunk it in water. Now you don't want it to be necessarily soaking or anything, but you definitely want a good amount of water on there.
It needs to be water almost on all your pages on the outside.
And we're just going up to the edge of our Easter egg right now.
Yep.
And now I can dip my brush into some paint. I think I'm gonna keep going with this sort of purple theme we've got. Gonna get some, I'll mix a couple of colors here, kind of get like an eggplant purple. And now when
It's so cool once you dip your brush on the page, it just goes everywhere.
Goes everywhere. And so yeah, exactly what Gunnar said. The wet on wet technique helps your paint to flow around the page very easily.
All you have to do is tap on it and it just spreads everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to paint on your brush and tap.
This purple actually ended up a little darker than I wanted, so I'm adding in a little bit of a lighter pinkish purple, and it's okay if you kind of end up with different splotches of color in your background, because it's going to make it kind of nice and atmospheric and floaty and all those wonderful spring vibes that we're bringing to this art piece. And if you want, you can even drop a little bit of water. You can see I'm taking my brush and just throwing a few drops here and there to sort of give it a bit of texture.
I'm going to add a turquoise.
Oh, turquoise is gorgeous. Now I'm going to get going on the inside of my Easter egg as well. So same thing, my water is pretty clean. You can see it's got a little bit of that pink in it, but I think right now we'll be okay. However, if you do feel that you need to switch out for some clean water, feel free to take a moment to do that. And now I'm going to paint my egg. I'm going to be dabbing, again, we're using the wet on wet technique. I'm just putting just straight water. And you can already kind of see on the page, maybe not so much on camera, but if you're doing this at home and following along with us, you'll definitely be able to see the way that the oil pastels are just not letting that water through.
It's just rejecting the water.
Just
like,
rejects
get
the
out
water.
of my home.
The oil pastels are very good at setting boundaries.
They're very fragile to break. They're very fragile.
I don't know if I'd say they're fragile. I would say they're actually quite the opposite.
Well, they're mean once water.
They're mean. They're mean to the water. They're like, no, please. They're asking the water to social distance. They're like, please stay 6 feet away. So I'm trying to make a point too of paying attention to getting the water in between my designs, because sometimes it can be kind of easy to skip over some parts, especially when you've used white pastel and can't really see it all that well. So now I'm just about done saturating the areas within my egg.
White oil pastel.
Yeah, it's not super visible.
On white paper. On black paper, white pastel just pops all over.
Oh, it gives you a lovely effect, doesn't it? All right, and I'm gonna
Yeah,
go
like-
for some
like
teal.
Like if you try to make a space, it's like try to make space art with oil pastels.
Yeah.
White.
All right, so I'm gonna go for some teal for my egg. And again, same thing as we did with the background, just that wet on wet, and you can just bring your colors right in. Let them flow. And you can even wipe them over some of the areas of pastel, and it'll give you this neat effect of just a very faint hint of whatever color you're painting your egg with, which can look really, really stellar.
I know exactly what I'm going to use to bring my white out.
Awesome. What color are you painting on the inside of your egg?
Darn. Purple. I used a lot of water, but the purple's still so dark. It didn't reveal my white.
Oh, you got a lot of paint on there. You can use your paper
I just dabbed it down on the paper and then it just started spraying everywhere.
So that's a great opportunity for a teachable moment for troubleshooting. So if someone at home is having the same problem as you and they have put way too much paint on their brush, you can actually just take a paper towel and here, I'll purposely make a mistake. Say you did this and you're covering up your colors, like right here. You can just take a bit of paper towel. Just dab it away. Watercolor is a very forgiving medium when it comes to making mistakes. So very easy to just tidy it up.
I made the same mistake at school. I accidentally got paint that I didn't want on my page with watercolor, so I just took Kleenex and started dabbing it up.
There you go, right? Like I said, it's a forgiving medium, so we can use that to our advantage and fix any mistakes. And you know what? Sometimes mistakes, as good old Bob Barras says, are happy accidents. Okay, and even though I did not have too many issues with this, I am going to just dab a little bit of the excess off. And that even gives you this kind of neat tie-dye texture happening on your egg.
It looks like something exploded on your page and it just dried everything up, but there's still some left.
A little bit. And you know, I decided I wanted to dab on the background a tiny bit too. And you can sort of see in the camera that it's giving us these lovely sort of textured shapes in the background. They're not too obnoxious, they're not super prominent, just enough that they add a tiny bit of visual interest and texture. So if you want, you can add a little more paint in some areas if you feel like it.
I'm just dabbing up my purple so it looks much lighter and I can see the oil pastels just sinking through.
Just popping right out. Yeah.
I can't see them completely as well as they were before we started painting, but at least I can see again.
Absolutely. They kind of contrast a little
They kind
bit.
of got covered up completely.
Oh, it happens. All right, everyone. So the final step is that we can let this dry for a few minutes. And then we will reveal the final project by peeling up the tape we used to make a border. We didn't quite go over that, but whenever you are doing a watercolor project, it is super handy to take a surface that is waterproof and just use some painter's tape to secure your watercolor paper. And what that does is that it prevents your paper from warping as you're adding the water to it, because the water will make the page tighten and you'll kind of get...
Should I take my tape off?
You know, yours is actually okay. I'm mostly just doing it for the live, but yours looks like there's lots of water on it, so you're
I'll just let it dry.
you might want to just let it dry for a minute. You want to peel gently, because in my days as an art instructor, I have had a few incidents where I have ripped the tape off a little too fast.
And your paper just gets ripped.
And yeah, it likes to take a chunk out of your paper. So always go nice and slowly when you're taking tape off of a project.
Not too slow. but not too fast.
I guess I don't know if there's necessarily a thing is too slow if you're doing this.
Yeah.
Always err on the side of going a little slower.
Just don't go too fast.
Not too
Or
fast.
else
Too
your
fast
paper
is
might
the
get
one
ripped.
that will ruin your artwork.
Yep. That looks like mine still kind of looks like an Easter potato.
Easter potatoes are just fine too. Okay, everyone. So here we have it, our finished product, the Watercolor Resist Easter Egg. I love doing these watercolor resist projects, honestly. They are just so much fun. Very easy thing that you can do at home. The cleanup is
Pretty
just
simple,
a breeze.
because it's just water.
It's just water, and watercolor paint comes off easily because it's water soluble.
Yep.
So thank you everybody who tuned in to check out our project. I'm gonna give you a quick glimpse of what you will be working on next week. We have this wonderful, I love this project. It's so cool, and you should totally tune in next week. We have these wonderful pencil drawn insects that we will be using erasers to texture. So that is next Tuesday. And of course, if you would like to see any of our previous projects, they are available on the Red Deer Museum and Art Gallery's website blog at www.reddeermuseum.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So let us know what you think, and thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful week, everybody.